Hello, in this video we will understand about the transmission of flu virus, influenza. So in the previous video we had discussed about the mechanism of the transmission of the virus in the cell of the human, but in this video we will understand the transmission within the species, different species. So the influenza flu records show that the flu has been around for at least 1500 years. The history begins with the Hippocrates, 5th century BC. So the Hippocrates is also known as in Urdu the Sakrat. That was the scientist in that time. The genetic changes that enable a flu strain to jump from one animal species to another, including human, is called antigenic shift. In this way, the transmission of the flu virus from birds or other mammals toward the human, and in this case, the recombination will occur, will lead to modification, adaptation, like a COVID-19 increase. Due to that is also the cause in influenza-like symptom. So this is the structure. It is the bird host and bird influenza A strain, which that's contain HA antigen and NA antigen. So A1, let's begin to understand a duck or bird or other aquatic bird passed a bird strain of influenza A to an intermediate host such as a chicken or pig. So let's begin to understand first the infection, the action of the infection, how it is possible. So the HA receptor and NA receptor is allowed to endocytosis of the virus into the host cell. The host cell is basically the trachea of the birds or other part of the bird. After endocytosis, it will be moved the genetic material inside, and the inside the endosome formation will be a breakdown due to the hydrolytic enzyme and the proton pump influx. So the genetic material release and replication as well as the multiplication through a uh, uh, DNA polymerase enzyme, RNA polymerase, because it is RNA. So the RNA polymerase enzyme are present within the virus. So it will produce the copies of the uh, viral particles, and replication will result will lead to exocytosis in the outfold of the plasma membrane of the host cell, and the new strain, the intermediate host cell, which that will be allowed to move to another species as well as itself damage further cells. So new influenza virus strain A again infections toward the itself of the cells or toward the other species. So let's begin to understand without undergoing genetic change, a bird strain of influenza A can jump directly from a duck or other bird, other aquatic bird, to an intermediate animal host and then to human. So first is the intermediate host. Let's begin to understand. Intermediate host can be pig or other mammal. So the pig involve the center of the disease because pig containing a lot of disease. So the influenza virus can infect to the pig is easily because pig is living in the garbage. So it after the recombination due to the pig, and in this with the modification and the basically pig when in fact it will transmit the DNA RNA into the another host, and in this way the recombination will occur. After this recombination, the new strain, human influenza A strain, can be formed. This human influenza A strain is also directly through pig or after the genetic mixing will lead to recombination for adaptation, and in this way the seasonal flu can again and again arise due to the a B memory cell will not effective for that, because the genetically recombination is very important for the suppression of the antibodies from the B memory cell again production. So that is why here is the human host. New strain human influenza strain A, which that infect the human, and this human again the A3 step, second step is in this way. It will be again can infect to the pig, and a person pass a human strain of influenza A to the same chicken or pig. So remember, this is the infection. After the recombination, the pig will be transmit the virus. Basically, is already infected cell. So remember that things. The already infected cell is very important for the recombination, because the new strain can be enter the infected cell again to mix up the genetic material, and that is why. Remember that things, a non-infected cell will not work for recombination, because the infected cells also already contain a genetic material will recombine to form a new genetically mutant strain of the influenza virus, which that is very important for adaptation and modification and infection again in the next season. So the A3 is basically when the virus infect the same cell, the genetic from genes from the bird strain mix with human strain. So the genes will be mixed with a human strain gene. In this way, the mixing of this gene due to the pre-infected cell will lead to post further infection, which that will lead to cause the mixing, because the infected cell is required the mixing for the further infection of another strain. So it can also transmit the human to human. So remember that things. And in this way, during the coughing and the sneezing, and on the other hand, the hand shaking or the breathing, which that will lead to cause the viral infection from person to person, like a COVID-19. So new recombinant strain infect to other human. It is the contagious for human. It is also zoonotic and contagious human. That is why. So this is the transmission of flu virus from one species to another species, which that is very meaningful, and that is why the flu is uncontrolled due to the continuously modification of the virus via a recombination due to the further infection from the infected cell. So remember, the recombination required the infected cell, and after the infected cell of the influenza will mix up the new strain with the genetic mixing will lead to modification, and that modification is very important for the evolutionary process to gain infection and survival, and the viral evolution and viral infection potential will be increased due to the recombination. So this is the video about the transmit of flu virus to the person, and from bird to the pig, the intermediate host and the primary host, as well as the secondary host is the person, and person to person is the tertiary host. You can understand. Thanks for watching. Please make sure to subscribe, like and share. Bye.